Thank you. Breaking this midday, prosecutors file a second criminal case against a driver in a crash that killed 2 children.
The second case against Tanner Hunt adds 3 misdemeanor charges: no proof of insurance, driving with a revoked license, and refusal to submit to a blood, breath, or urine test. Hunt still faces a motor vehicle homicide charge in the first criminal case.
Now, Omaha police have confirmed with First Alert 6 last night the second child involved in this crash has died. He was only 5 years old.
His older brother died last week. The crash happened near 114th and West Center Road. Investigators allege Hunt was speeding and weaving around traffic when he crashed into a Subaru. The 5-year-old and his 10-year-old were in the back seat of the Subaru at the time. Omaha police say an expert determined a combination of alcohol and Adderall played a role in the wreck. Hunt is due back in court in the middle of August.